Just like Disney threw it away, we're throwing that away in the
Exactly,
series.
exactly.
Never speak of that again. It's exactly what Tolkien wrote. It's exactly what and George lifted it and put it into he like lifted it, repackaged it into something else. Then, yeah, it'll be good.
Do you need to stop and clean that?
No, I have a towel here.
I'm gonna get medieval on your ass.
All right, right. Great intro. Great to be back. I know you guys missed this last week, but we decided to take off and double up on our magic and everything.
That's right.
Next week.
We got to get some magic acorns.
Absolutely, yes. We got a good one for you. Last week, week before last, D&D didn't quite go so well, but we're hoping to rebound extremely well with Willow.
Yeah.
Yes. Don't worry, it's not going to be the Willow TV series.
No.
Willow the movie, 1988.
Throw that away, just like Disney threw it away. We're throwing that away.
Exactly,
the series would never speak of that again.
Absolutely. Like I said, how's everyone doing? As always, before I jump into that, is welcome Dr. Brantley to the show, and down below from the Sarlacc Digest podcast YouTube channel, like we like to say, the best damn Star Wars YouTube channel.
Beautiful.
Darth Moocher, how you doing, brother?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing? I missed you.
Yeah. We got to save this up a little, power up the magic.
What else are we doing, right? Like,
yeah. Hey, look, if we did it every week and every time you got it, you just wouldn't be surprised when that.
Exactly.
Well, again, today's episode is about Willow, and just some controversial takes on Willow, because there's certain things after watching it yet again, and I think I've watched this movie maybe 10 or 15 times over the course of its life.
Okay.
And when I was younger, I had a different perspective. I'm starting to find out I have a different perspective as I'm older, and I don't know if that's a fairly good thing.
Interesting. Well, revisiting this is always a pleasure for me because I grew up with this movie as a kid. I take more out of this movie of movie quotes and what the brownies say, all these kind of things in my daily life that I never knew I did until you're rewatching stuff. So I go, oh, that's where I got it from. Oh, that's where I got it from. But I honestly did have I've always meaning to watch this movie a lot more. Again, with the Forbidden series talk was always like how it kind of got reinvigorated. But I still think this movie has heart. It's all about the heart, right? And it comes in our family of Star Wars. It's George Lucas. It's Ron Howard, who directed Solo also, and these are the superpowers.
And Wicket.
And Warwick Davis at 18 years old, it's the superpowers in the wheelhouse that we grew up. It's the norm for me, and it's almost like Willow is always up there, with the Indiana Jones and Star Wars and everything. Because again, it's coming from the Lucas wheelhouse. But you guys are here to kind of school me on some things because I'm at this point I'm a fan of it, and I always thought like Willow was a direct George Lucas 100% original creation. I know there's just elements of like there's Tolkien elements of it. There's the hero's journey. There's the unexpected kind of stuff. But I'm anxious to see what you guys thought. But I enjoyed revisiting. Like I actually was looking forward to revisiting and rewatching. I had a smile on my face the whole 1 hour and 30 some minutes. Like I was like, this is awesome. But I do have some takes on if it would be filmed today, how well it would have been, or better or worse. So we'll get into that.
Yeah, I absolutely loved this movie. I remember I was 16 when it came out, and so I rode my bike down to the theater. Because no one in my family would want to go and see it. So it was a matinee for me. But I remember absolutely loving it. It was a lot darker and scarier than you are led to believe going in. You know, because oh look, it's the little people and it's gonna be a fun adventure. And it starts out where, you know, it is a time of dread.
Yeah.
And they're rounding up pregnant ladies and putting them in dungeons.
Yeah.
And trying to find a baby to murder. It's like, whoa, okay. And those dogs are scary too.
Those dogs are scary.
Dogs.
It had the Ben-Hur element, right? Of like the firstborn kind of killing the like that whole thing.
Well, it's the Moses story.
Right?
Put him on the raft of reeds and send him down the river.
I remember that as a kid being exactly how you said, have that isolation feeling of watching the story, how because you couldn't put yourself into that mode, into that village of the terror dogs coming in, right? And how scary they were, and you being you know, that threatening element and the worldly powers outside of the realm of your out of control, you know what I mean? And you need those heroes of the day. And so I did recall that of being like uncomfortable as a kid watching it, but of course you're watching this journey take place. And that's why I appreciate movies that do that. You know what I mean? I can like invoke a reaction at like time of dread. Okay, like Conan. When we get Conan eventually, it's the same thing, you know.
The stakes are high.
Right there, you know? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like you know that people are getting murdered.
Yeah.
You know, they're not playing around. It's not like G.I. Joe where every time a plane crashes, a parachute comes out.
Don't worry about it. He's fine. Just a flesh wound. Yeah.
Yeah. No, these people, you know, the nursemaid gets it by the dogs bad by the river. Like that. I remember that like was watching it as like, oh God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I think the element is that I remember watching this in the theater. Then I remember at one point, I think it came on VHS or something. You were able to purchase it. Then it kind of disappeared for a very long time, and it was extremely hard for you to actually watch. And I don't know if that was just something due to rights or anything, because I know this is, but if I'm believing, I think this is MGM that did this version of it. So it wasn't like he was over at 20th Century Fox. So I don't know if that was a right scenario or if George Lucas kind of like
MGM.
He's tucked
MGM
away.
has always had problems with money. They're going bankrupt about every other decade. And so, you know, it's like that's part of their library. So it goes where it goes. And if they don't have money to put stuff out, they don't do it.
Yeah. Well, it's sad. And then I remember when Disney Plus they launched, they would say there's going to be an opportunity to catch all of Lucas's stuff. And I watched it again and then recently just to get into it. And the difference between watching it from in the theater or years ago to now, because we've had so many Lord of the Rings and so many great things that happening out there, my take on it was that it seemed at the time a very original story. This last time I watched it, I'm like, this is Lord of the Rings. This is absolutely the Hobbits. This is, 100% plagiarism. This is not an original idea. And I was completely thrown away because the problem with not having that source material younger and now having it now, I'm able to see it. I'm like, wait a minute now. There's it's like there's a Hobbit village of little people. There's a Hobbit village of little people. There's all these little aspects that come and there's some great moments in the film. And I think it serves as well on its own. But equally, there is a lot of token that is in this story. And that was the thing that I was surprised this last time watching it, that just came to the forefront. And again, like I told you, I was a tad bit disappointed only because I had the knowledge and now the references to understand that George Lucas, and I think we came with the same thing through Indiana Jones. There's a couple of things that you start seeing where it's like, I don't know how original these characters are. I think George Lucas does a very good job of dating things from the past and lifting them for the future, but we'll get into that on another podcast.
But there's also like when we did our Lord of the Rings journey and to the Rings of Power and stuff, we talked about how Tolkien kind of set the groundwork for fantasy. Here it is, the base materials that you need, and we always talk about that hero's journey, and there is one glaring similarity between Willow and the Hobbit is the hero from the unexpected person, you know, the person that you at least expect somebody to save the world, Bilbo Baggins, Willow Elfgood, right? It's the same character. He has to take something from his village out of the realm into to save the world. And this part, it's the baby. It's Elora Danan, right? It's that aspect of it that he needs to be the baby carrier and see it through. So there's definitely a huge similarity on that. And I think that's why first off, that's why it works, right? Yeah. So it's not just a hero just fighting and saving the day stuff. It's like, you know, Willow is not a warrior. He's, you know, it's got the greatest heart in those stories. And I think it's exactly what Tolkien wrote. It's exactly what, you know, and George lifted it and put it into he like lifted it, repackaged it into something else. Then, yeah, it'll be good.
Do you need to stop and clean that?
No, I have a towel here.
Okay.
So,
because I can edit this. So,
no,
you know.
It's funny. I get excited. I'm Italian. I talk with my hands, you know. So,
well, it's funny. I wrote something.
I've got a little table over here, completely away from it, just in case.
I don't learn, man. I do not learn.
Yeah,
I don't learn.
Well, I wrote something very similar down on the most basic level. This is Lord of the Rings, where it starts where something is taken from the bad guy's place.
Yeah,
goes far away, taken by the unlikely person, and they come all the way back with some allies and defeat the bad guy.
Right.
So it's, you know, if you can condense Lord of the Rings, you know,
yeah,
just very basic.
100%,
and they had time for a couple of big army battles and some cool action scenes. I love the action in this.
Yeah.
The cart scene.
I think that's what stands out the most.
Yeah.
Is the end of the film, and there's like a great sequence of, first of all, we're diminishing the part of Ron Howard. Here's a guy, and I would say this, and, you know, again, it may be controversial, I don't care, but like I think of like Ron Howard in the same vein as Steven Spielberg. Just you know, when you're getting from Ron Howard, it's going to be a good film. It's going to be technical filmmaking. It's going to have a great story. And through the course of decades, he's been able to maintain that kind of quality. Now, that you don't see with a lot of directors. So it goes to tell you his imaginative eye. Right. But when I'm looking at this ending battle scene, from the minute they get to this torn down, run down castle, it's all the way until you get to the end. Yeah. And that's what makes the end of this film such a spectacular kind of thing, because this is coming at you all over the place. There's battling going on, there's things going in the tower, there's so many intricate parts, yet you're never distracted by any of the other action. So that's just a talent to Ron Howard. He just did a great job directing this movie.
And he balances very well, where like, there's big action, but at the beginning it's very small and, you know, and beautifully shot. But all the stuff in the village with the Nelwyns, like when they're having the little festival and the dogs come in, that is scary. The way it's shot is fantastic. And then when his daughter is alone and crying, that's like one of those shots that just like hits you. And like you do fear, because you've seen these dogs are going after children. They killed the nursemaid. So, you know, stuff like that. But it slowly goes from there and builds and builds and builds into these big epic battles.
Yeah. And that, again, that's where great fantasy is known, when you can take something from one corner of the world and all of a sudden they're like almost they're living in this world, you know, just like the hobbits are, and then they unaware that this whole thing is going on around them. It's like, you know, out of sight, out of mind, you know, until the danger element, like you have to get involved, this is your world too, kind of stuff. And then you look outside and it's like this bigger world outside. And the set being in 1988 and this kind of setting, I don't know how much money it was to make this kind of film, but I did kind of put in my head, like, I'm always against remakes and reboots. I don't like them. I think the originals are great. And again, I'm not advocating for a remake, but I'm saying, like, if you took the exact cast, the exact creators, and Val Kilmer, everybody that you could, and plopped them into 2024 and said, we're going to make Willow with a $100 million budget, what would that look like with the same creators and that same actors and everything? You know what I mean? And that's where I was like watching this going like, this is great. I love it because it's part of us. It's part of our childhood. And they did a great job from what the 80s did. But we're kind of spoiled now with the Lord of the Rings stuff that they did come out with, the, you know, thousands and thousands versus thousands. And this movie had, like, you know, 100 horsemen versus 100 horsemen. And it was supposed to be a grander thing that in our heads that we're building this up, right? So part of me was like, I wonder what it would be like if it was filmed today, but not with different characters, not with, or actors, not with different, with Ron Howard, George Lucas, Val Kilmer, worked, like everybody involved to today. You know what I mean? I would love to see what the limitations would, you know, that they couldn't do in the 80s that they could do now, you know, because I know there was a lot more story there that they couldn't shoot because of technical aspects, because of CGI wasn't a thing then, you know what I mean? They had some innovations, but they didn't have like the ability to copy and paste, you know, thousands and thousands of whatever, you know.
There's a lot more practical shots in this. And there's obviously the matte paintings and the stop motion and everything that was at their disposal at that time frame. Yet, I think that even if they, you know, look, there's certain things that need to be left alone. I think Willow's one of those things. I think they saw.
I agree.
With the series, I think they just had something that was in her minds that worked out extremely perfect. Yeah. And, you know, maybe you just couldn't reduplicate it. And I think that's exactly what it is. Willow stands out as one of those films from the 80s, at least, that it comes to mind, that you remember the film, you always fond memories of it. And then it was kind of like a one and done. And they really just didn't franchise this.
Yeah.
And that was the difference between a lot of movies that they did do. I would like to think like this and maybe The Last Starfighter. Usually those are just kind of films that they're good movies. They're good movies for one film.
Leave it alone.
Like, thank God they didn't mess it up. And then in 2023, my God, you messed it up. What did you do?
Yeah. Like I said, my whole thing was like, from concept, it would bring it into modern, but not like redoing it in modern technology. It's like, what if Willow came to be now and what that scale would have been, right? I 100% agree with you. You do not make a sequel to this. Just leave it alone. It's one of those things we put it on, and because you know what? Because what's great about it, it zooms in on the village. The end of the movie zooms out on it, and you see, like, you know, like the forest kind of stuff, and they're having a party. And it makes you feel good that this was just a side story, that you don't need, you know, so much world building and so much beaten to death. Yeah, the series just didn't. I don't know what happened there. I really don't know what happened. It was like they really destroyed the characters.
Just said, hey, we got this property. Let's see if we can exploit it again.
Oh,
and they just didn't have any reminiscence of what.
Well, they destroyed the characters. They took Willow and they threw him away, right? Basically, you know, and it was like that hurt, you know, because I was looking forward to it in a series format, not a movie format. But it was wow.
Well, they just told the wrong story.
Yeah.
You know, they had the budget and the visuals and all this stuff, and even the actors. I think the actors were all good.
Yes.
It's just what they were given to do. Some of it didn't make any damn sense.
It didn't make any sense, you know.
It wasn't good. But you're right. It again, somehow they like destroying these characters, like Luke Skywalker, right?
Yeah.
It's like
I said, they
make him. Hey, I hate this.
Yeah,
now.
let's take him, and we just made him a horrible, like, just outcasted character and destroyed everything about what made the title of it Willow, and just like, it's not about him anymore. But you're still calling it that, and that's where I'm like, Willow didn't regress. Every character Disney's doing is now they're regressing the heroes and they're putting up a brand new generation of heroes to move forward instead of making them the Obi-Wan characters of everything, right? So that's where Lucas gets it right. That old, the wise man stuff. Take the legacy character, take Willow and make him an Obi-Wan to somebody new. Instead of like this, yeah.
The killer of it is that when you have, like, when you're watching Willow, he's such a fun and wonderful individual of life. He loves his village, he loves his wife, he loves his children. All except for that one villager that's a little bit of an ass. But but everyone else, they live a simple life. They're enjoying their things, and then at the end of the movie, he returns back to that simple life. And there's so much beauty in that when it's not like some dark under siege over them. You love when you can turn and see the characters go home, and it's like like Willow lived a good life. You can end the movie. You don't need another sequel. That they sequel did, and it made it seem like his life wasn't that great after the movie, and that's what kind of did it in.
Yeah.
Well, now they did make sequels in book form.
Oh, they did.
They did a trilogy that was a story by George Lucas, and it was written by Chris Claremont, who did the X-Men comic books. So he wrote 3 novels, 95, 96, and 2000.
Wow,
It was called... But now here's the thing. This is why I didn't know about it either until I did research on this. They didn't call it Willow. They didn't mention that it was involved in the Willow universe or anything. It's just, here's this new story from George Lucas and Chris Claremont. It was called the Chronicles of the Shadow War Trilogy, Shadow Moon, Shadow Dawn, and Shadow Star.
That's screaming Willow out to me. Yeah, I can see how we couldn't find that.
Even on the covers, it doesn't have anything about Willow. It doesn't say Willow. Even in the books, apparently, the character has a dream that they shouldn't use the name Willow, and so they change their name. So the rest of the movie or the book, they go on as named as this other character. So it's almost like, so why do you have Willow in it?
Why are we connected? Yeah, exactly.
But it's about Elora Danan growing up a little bit later, and some stuff goes on, but it sounded like really weird and trippy. And the critics said like it didn't make a lot of sense.
Gotcha. Well, I was gonna go seek them out and start and read them just for curiosity's sake.
I don't know.
I still
Chris
might.
Claremont.
I still might. And if George Lucas put his approval on it, I mean, that is interesting. I mean, maybe it was. Maybe you guys are right on something. Maybe it was like where Lucas was way too close to certain things that nothing could be expanded on, because then it's like, hey, people are gonna know. They're gonna start figuring it out. So
no, the whole thing has a very as I was watching and rewatching it, and this is the first time that it ever happened just to dissect it for the show. So I'm looking at it from a different point. I'm looking at it not
sure,
and watching it, but more the person reviewing it. Yeah, and that changed my opinion of it, because as I'm watching, I said, "Well, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah,
this is the Hobbit right here. What the heck? Are you talking about?" It's like,
Alex, I had that same thought. I had the same thought watching it, but I was like, well, this is 88, and Lucas probably. I was in my head. I'm like, he's probably read all Tolkien's works. I mean, he's a fan of fantasy. He's a fan of fiction. So of course he knows this. Again, he just took like that and then repackaged it into this other, world. And I don't think it's ever mentioned where we're at in this world of Willows. Like we're not on Earth. We're not on this planet where sorcery exists. You know what I mean? Like it's just a fantasy realm of sorts. So we're never, obviously because there's different, races of beings through the whole thing. So, he just kind of like repackaged into a side story. And I did read I did like a behind the scenes thing, and Lucas was talking. He goes, he had this story for 15 years prior, in his head, doing the workings of Willow, the story of it. And so that dates it back in when he's in film school. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm sure he was obviously a student of all kinds of things. So wrote his, his trilogy down, or his fantasy version of Conan and Lord of the Rings, and put it into this world. Sure.
Yeah.
So
But like you still
he
can't
said,
underestimate the fact is that it has a great beginning, middle, and end.
Yes.
That's if you're gonna do a story and you're gonna make sure that it's not, because I think the problem is that too many people write for trilogies or multiple and they get the first movie wrong, or they get the first episode wrong, instead of just letting the material sit for what it is. And
Yeah.
if it
I
does
agree.
need to be expanded upon, it's open-ended. And I
Right.
think that that's something that Willow did extremely well, was just that we watched the beginning, the middle, the end, and we never had to think about the characters again. And when we watched it, we had a little bit of love and everything. Now that's the element that I thought he did better than Token, because Token is you've got to expand some years and some times and some
Yes.
situations, and there's a lot of material for that. And I just thought that if there is a little bit of a lift, but he took the best, and he knew that it's best to leave it here and go on to something else. And
Yeah,
that's what
100%. Yeah.
now his original idea for this was called Munchkins.
Oh,
thank God he called it Willow.
I think there's a horror movie called Munchkins. It's almost like in that vein of the Ghoulies and Critters.
Yeah,
I think there is.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So that's where he started with this idea. And
I'm glad he
moved
changed
into
it.
Willow. Yes.
He changed it. Yeah.
I was thinking maybe
maybe
you start with what would the an adventure with the Munchkins from Oz be like, or something like that, And,
Right.
So because this could just as well be Oz as well. With
Sure.
this is the way that things are, but
well, I was just gonna say, I like I said, I was watching some behind the scenes stuff, because again, we missed the DVD formats these days with added, so I had to go seek it out. And the village, and there's a name for it, I can't remember it, but the village where Willow's at, they had spent a year planting and growing just like Hobbiton, just like it. I mean, overgrowth and doing this festival thing, and so I was sitting there going like, man, how many years from Peter Jackson to this, and like it was that same idea. Again, it was just on a very smaller scale on what Peter Jackson did, right? He had, again, you put it into more modern times, more modern money, and the scale of what this could have been. You know what I mean? And maybe if we took Willow and put it into today, knowing that we have Lord of the Rings, maybe George Lucas would say, forget it. That's too much like Lord of the Rings. Now it's out in the front. I never thought anybody would do Lord of the Rings movie anyway.
Right.
And now here it is. And so he was doing his version of it, kind of. So yeah, maybe it would have never seen the light of day if we didn't get it in 88. But I thought it was kind of fascinating that the production almost mimicked Lord of the Rings. How many years later? 20 years later.
Well, and they shot some in New Zealand.
They
shot in Wales,
in England. Same studios that did Star Wars with. And
so the budget on this was $35 million.
Wow,
at the time.
Yeah,
and the opening weekend was $8 million. But it made 57 in the U.S. and 80 international. So it made money, but it wasn't like a huge hit.
It wasn't a blockbuster. It came out in May, so it was a summertime blockbuster movie, but it was early.
Well, this is the competition it had. Like right after is Crocodile Dundee 2, Big, and Rambo 3.
Yeah.
So it was rough.
Yeah.
Or Willow. The summer Titans.
Yeah.
People love the hell of that Paul Hogan dude, bro. I tell you that.
Crocodile Dundee 2 it was really good. I'm sorry, it was and the first one. It's so funny. I don't remember what I'm sure I've seen this. I'm sure I saw Willow in the theater, but I do vividly remember VHS. I vividly remember watching it in my living room. But in the especially 88, I spent my summers in the movie theater, so I I just don't remember it. Like, but I do remember a lot more other movies that I've seen in theaters. But 88's it's a blurred year, you know, because 89 was Batman, and I know where I was, you know, and it's like boom, boom, boom. But this was the days of VHS, you know, rentals and sitting at home and doing it. And I think we had a copy of it because I've probably seen it 20, 30 times in my entire lifetime. You know, it's just something. And some of my favorite characters are the brownies in this, you know, Kevin Pollak. It's just because I felt like all their lines were ad-libbed. I don't think George Lucas wrote any of those. I think they just let them go, which again, I'm just guesstimating on it because they're so funny, and it kind of doesn't resemble George Lucas's humor in ways of those two characters.
And see, that's part of the problem I have with them.
Okay.
Because I think they're a little too much into the comedy. Because
too much. Yeah.
The comedy at the beginning is great, where it's more realistic. It's about, you know, the characters and stuff.
Yeah.
When you get two comedians, they're going to do comedy bits.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and some of it works great, and some of it does not. And when a comedy bit doesn't work, it's very painful.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, again, maybe it's nostalgia for me. But I do agree. Mad Mardigan, you know, Val Kilmer's character was comic relief in a sense. You've got what's his name? The bald the dude that was Willow's boss. Burglecut. Him getting pooped on. He was kind of he was supposed to be an antagonist, but he kind of, I mean, he was there, but then he kind of a comic. The brownies were definitely an over-the-top comic relief. And as I was watching, I go, man, it's a lot more. So it put me in this lighthearted mood from the dark tones. It kind of brought a balance to it. Like, this is a family film. This is a family journey that it's, like I said, it's not like Conan, you know, where Conan had some funny parts to, but I mean, his mom's head got chopped off in 3 minutes of the film. Anyway, that's not funny. You know what I mean? And so, like with Willow, it's like you got the sorceress, you got these things going on, but then that comedy brings that dark tones down. And so, as I was laughing my ass off with the brownies, but I got it. I was like, okay, this movie in a different category. Put in a different mode of viewing, you know, where it's like, all right, a lot of things aren't that serious because of this now.
Well, and I think that's what Lucas has done a lot. I think a little bit more than other producers, directors. When he makes something family film, he's making it family film.
Yeah. He understands PG, man. Like,
like Willow didn't have any over sexualized scenes. There was no dirty undertones or anything to it. It's a family movie. Right. It's got characters. He's Matt Mardigan's a scoundrel, but yet he turns into a very decent person in a certain situation. There's one little point where he gets the magic hits him.
Yeah.
But it's still not like it's they
funny
would
though.
In the
It's
80s.
like,
The 80s they would have taken it to maybe some nudity or something else like that.
Sure.
It's a family.
Okay, but there is a line there, because now that you were saying that, I'm thinking, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
When he's dressed up as a woman because he's been sleeping with Lug's wife, he's like, wanna breed? Tempting, but no.
Yeah, he does grab his boob. I mean, it's like, it was racy for George Lucas to put that in. But yeah, I get both those points, especially like Lucas very much puts his head down when he says these films are for kids, or like at 80s different time, because 80s you got away with a lot more for rating. We can handle this. That's why I told filmmakers today, we can handle this stuff. You could put it in. It's okay. You don't have to be so walking on eggshells around people in theaters. If you want to make a bad guy bad, make him bad. Make us hate that guy. So he's got to say some bad things to the audience for us to be like, I'm glad he died in that film, right? So, like I said, the audience is smarter than the filmmakers think, but Man Mardigan is definitely Han Solo. Adam Roselda is definitely the Obi-Wan character. I mean, you got Luke as Willow. It's great. It's great. I see Star Wars every
film to go back and rewatch. It's one of those things that I think the better part of it is that you can bring in younger family members and sit and rewatch it with them.
Definitely.
And know that it's just
Definitely.
it's a good storyline. You never know if you're gonna build it in. I think it is a very good jumping point for anyone that wants to take out like Lord of the Rings or anything else. Like, I think it's a
Yeah.
very good starter if you're into
Yeah.
magic, if you're into dragons, if you're into all these other like medieval facts. And I
Yeah.
think you will grow within it a little bit more to the
Yeah.
next level of it. And I think it's a starter pack. Willow's a starter pack into fantasy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. You know what? And here's the thing too. With Willow, George Lucas wrote this world and he didn't have to overly explain it or ground it. It's like sorcery's there. It wasn't overdone. It was Willow is a farmer, he's doing this, and he wants to be the sorcerer's apprentice, right? And he has to look within himself as the hero and all that stuff. But and then when the troll scene, right? When we took the wand to the troll and the skin came off and kicked it and it became this two-headed dragon, there were no explanations for that. There's no lore behind it. It just is what it is. He just is like, and this what happened. It kicked it into the water, it became a two-headed troll. Why? Because, you know what I mean? It's just because it's fantasy. It's we don't have to explain it. And this film does that. It puts you in that mode of like, all right, I'm here for a turn the page, choose your own adventure, fantasy movie. You know what I mean? Where nothing that has to be explained to me to the point where it doesn't. My imagination's gone after that. So as a start, it's one of those things. I put it on, and now we're introduce you to the world of fantasy, make believe, and dragons and witches and wizards and stuff. So so I agree with that. Yeah,
I love that aspect. Also, one of my favorite tropes, and I don't care what movie I've seen it in. I have probably seen it in maybe 100 films. There's always that scene wherever there's that one character, and there's no matter if it's any kind of monster or anything, and if one grabs one side or grabs the side, tears apart. I don't care what film it is. They will constantly put that guy being ripped apart by two different animals or the same animal time and time again. And every time I see it, it still works. I don't know why it does that. I think the last time I saw that was in Godzilla versus I think it was Kong or something, where they had King Ghidorah in it. And the same thing happened.
Oh, yeah.
It just works from the 50s.
You almost expect it, right?
Just works. I don't know why.
You expect it like, oh, okay, there it is. Check that out. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You got the Wilhelm scream about
Yeah.
3-4 times in this film. So it's like the Wilhelm scream, it's in every film almost. Those are the things you look for. Yeah. I like that a lot. Yeah. It was cool.
Yeah.
And then
I
of
thought
course
they did overdo Matt Mardigan's skills because again, like, they didn't pump him up to be like the greatest warrior that's ever walked around the planet. And he's just fell on hard times. It's more of like, he's never been there that can be counted upon. And there's a scene where
Han Solo, he found a purpose at the end of it. You know what I mean?
I think the thing that gets me, and there's an overexploited scene, but it works. And I give them credit because Ron Howard feels it, but it's when Crow kills the guy that tells Mardigan that he'll never be, and then he rolls down. But they do this long sequence of him rolling down this hill till he stops. And I don't know why, but that absolutely enforced the point of it, that this was something more that he needed to do. But it is a hell of a scene because I'm like, that guy rolled down halfway down a hill. I don't know who this stepman is. Bravo to him.
Exactly. Yeah, there's always that. It's always that the best friend or whatever it is that gets killed. Again, everybody in this story had a journey. It did a 180. The character's arc in every film. It's film 101. You guys know this. I'm a film goer and I know this. You know, so why don't people get this? But like every character that you saw did a 180. They started one side and they ended over here. Bad or good, they all had a change. You know what I mean? Mad Mardigan is a perfect example of, like I said, that Han Solo thing. Somebody who's out for themselves, who got trapped, came across these people, decided to do his own thing, still got trapped again into his own ways, but then it took the sorcerer, it took Wicked Willow into like to give him the purpose in life to be like, all right, look, maybe I'm going to use my skills and just, be a part of something bigger than just selfishness and doing my own thing. It's a journey for everybody. And that's why I do feel like in today's fantasy films, this is lost. This is not something that I can walk out of a theater anymore. First of all, there's not many fantasy films, but when there are, it's like they're too busy with, I don't know, who looks good on film anymore versus.
A lot of times I think they're just trying to how do we make them likable? Sometimes you don't need the character to be likable at first. You get to like them along the journey. That's the whole point of a journey,
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're watching it, and I think one of the aspects that I did like again is sometimes you can overstate, and this is the one thing that I think that we get more into what we do as a profession, and I'm sure Dr. Brantley agree with this. Usually, you don't have to over-explain something.
Right.
I think that's lost on today. It seems like they're over-explaining every time a character's on screen and he does something, and it's like they're giving you the cliff notes of this scenario in 5 minutes of the introduction of the character.
Yeah.
Matt Martin's, Martin is locked up in this situation, and it didn't go with
because
this, why in this situation he's been locked this long, and
exactly.
No, it's like he's there. He did something bad. Where can we move into something good?
And even his own friend won't break him out.
Right.
Yeah. And he seems like he's such an individual that, it's like, well, what got him to that level?
Right.
We did not need to see that.
That gave us all we need to know about him. Really.
Yeah.
We can headcanon that. We could put in this again. He's the lone wolf. He's his own person, selfish, again, out for himself, that he finds his purpose in life. He finds his purpose with Sorsha and everything else. And again, those character tropes I feel in the 80s, right? And even the 70s stuff, I feel like they had a formula that they just was plug and play, and like that worked. Look, guys, everybody's relating to characters, and they're buying toys, and they're buying and they're watching the movies over and over because we're relating to the character more and more and more versus somebody on screen who looks pretty, who looks the part, everything, but the character went nowhere. Like he ended the exact same place he started. He just, maybe saved the day, and it was like, well, that's boring. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be some kind of growth in the story progression too, and that's why when we decided to do like movie like Willow, I was like, yes, because I remember it's those things again. The visuals, you could put it in the 80s to format, and I could do that, and they did a great job for what it was, because again, ILM was there, they were at the prime, but again, it's that I think Ron Howard said, if the story is there, then it'll all fall in line. Like the story comes first, no matter what. You know what I mean? And I don't know I don't know how more we have to get that point across to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it even ends like,
I can say all Hollywood. There's some good stuff.
They've got the jerk in the village, and Ron Howard just knows just exactly how to put the exclamation point on the end about this guy. And it's just so funny that you're like, it's not a lot of maliciousness. It's just a situation where everybody in the village knows he's an ass. And when it happens, no one's quite surprised about it, but it's just that little extra like, hey, he's got to get his due. And that's a great point of storytelling, because, you want to see somebody that's kind of like not so good of an individual kind of get their due. And you're like, okay, now you can roll the credits. I'm good now. Film's done. And everybody's laughing and hopping, and he's the only guy that's not. And we're good, So Ron Howard is probably one of the top 10 best filmmakers when it comes to consistency of his work over multiple decades.
He also
in the top.
He also trusts the audience to know what he's putting on film. Like he knows, like, I'm going to shoot this. The audience isn't dumb. They're going to know that this connects and this connects or whatever, and they're going to know what this happens. And we need more Ron Howards. We do.
We do.
I'm happy we got into Willow. I love it.
Oh yeah. And again,
I wish there was toys.
I think a lot of people want to kill it because of this series.
Yeah.
Let the series be its own thing. if you can, whenever they decide to bring it back, because at one point they probably
it's
will,
gone.
You know,
it was
it's gone right now, but it's a point of somehow they might be just saving it to make a little more money.
I will tell you,
leave the movie as a separate entity.
Yeah.
And then if you do watch Willow the series, then just watch it, but don't equate that as this is the same thing.
Yeah, no, you're gonna be very disappointed.
Legacy of the movie, if you think.
Yeah, so in our Starlight Digest, right? Like I was like when they said Willow, they're gonna do the series.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, fist pump and everything. And Scott Solo, who's on that show too, he was like, well, I don't really remember Willow, so it is if the series I don't have that much that ties. He didn't have those nostalgic ties into it like I was so excited,
Yeah.
So when I was complaining about the series, he goes, yeah, it's not good, but I don't know why. He's like, it's not good for maybe not the same reasons I think it's not good, and I think that discouraged him from watching Willow again, from exploring that. So, and I told him, and I would tell him, I said, no, God, okay. Do yourself a favor and just stop watching it and just watch Willow and remember that because that was good. And, Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back along with George Lucas, his son wrote the Willow series, right? So I was like, oh, he's got great writer's blood in him. I'm like, well, that didn't translate.
So, yeah, we know that.
Hey, that's me. That's just the views and are only my opinions only, I'll take it.
It's fairly accurate.
Fairly accurate is that if your father writes great, chances are you will probably stink. And if you're a great writer, your father probably stunk. So
it doesn't.
Very rare to have that passed down. That's not something in the blood that comes.
Yeah.
You have to put time and effort into being.
Yeah, and he's pushing so when Disney pulled the series. He was very upset, of course, and Disney's like, no, we're never seeing this. You'll never see us again. He's like, well, we'll find another distributor. We'll find somebody else. And then because he was pushing for a season 2. He wanted to go, and everybody was like, for the love of God, just walk away, please. We've already trying to forget this. And again, I'm not gonna say anything wrong with the visuals or the acting. The acting was great. The visuals, the villains that they put in that series were amazing. They were like comic book characters, and so I was trying to give it that chance of but what they did to the main character of Willow was bastardized. They really threw that character away. They really destroyed everything about Willow in the first 10 minutes of it, and I never saw it. It wasn't coming back to it. It's like we already saw Willow at his lowest. You know what I mean? It didn't end up at his lowest. I just what gives people that right to do that to a character like that?
Well, I think it's an easy way to for some writers to start, right? It's like, I don't want to start at this place where they ended last time because everyone was happy. We can't have happy people. That's no good for drama. But it's like, well, you can start happy and things go bad, and then you try to get back to the place you were at.
Right.
But I think they completely missed the point, because I think Willow should have been the High Aldwin of the village. And he took over for Billy Barty, and he's been doing this, and then there's trouble with Elora Danan, and he's got to come out of the Shire, whatever they called it, and go back into the world of the Daikinis and deal with all of this. But now he's got a much bigger tricks and magic.
I mean, they put where Sorsha outs him from the village, and you're outcasted, and now he's living this a hole, and it's like, wow. I mean, but they never went back to bring it to a point where that made sense or anything. It was just like, no, we got we have a younger cast that we're gonna put on a pedestal, and we're gonna
they started the series happy. Or the movie happy. They ended the movie happy.
Yeah.
You could have started this new series happy, and you could have ended it happy. Take the high road. It was.
Put us back in the world. You know what I mean? And you don't just tell us
to it.
Yeah, at this point, and I know we're getting into serious. You don't just tell us evil's back. Well, I know the movie didn't have to do that. It was just there, and it was like this world, and then whatever. So evil's back. Okay, all right. I guess evil's back, and and then all these things happen, and it kind of Scorsese's it backwards a little bit. But again, it was like Willow was supposed to be top notch, the guy who was saved the world, and you treat him like this. You know what I mean? And
well,
it's like Luke Skywalker.
I will say Lucasfilms and MGM wasn't the only one that treated him bad. I think Tonka did not give him his.
Yeah.
If we take a look, I pulled up some stuff from what was out there because I remember there was Willow action figures or figurines or whatever you want to call these. But I didn't quite. So as I remember, I was like, okay, now I remember these. Yeah, I don't think that they did themselves any favors with this. These look like mini.
How do you play with these?
I don't know.
You know,
maybe it's a Willow chessboard.
How many points of articulation? What's articulation? I don't know.
Yeah, none.
Yeah, it's plastic.
Yeah, this one kind of had me going. And again, as we're looking at this, like they had some great points. Look, they used great artwork, great situation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
this was just, I think, one of those toy lines that they just. And again, Tonka's had a habit of this kind of stuff. It's not.
Yeah.
Go around when Tonka messes something up.
Tonka's not the people you go to for your action figures. If you
Not
have a big truck, that's
Yeah.
what you want Tonka for.
Kenner wasn't doing anything at that point. Star Wars was over.
Yep.
Well,
You know?
I think they probably saw that, hey, this isn't going to sell.
Yeah.
You know what? It may be because again, it's so funny how we're jaded in the box office numbers for today's standards.
True,
Like,
true.
An $8 million opening weekend when it cost 35. What is that? It didn't even make a quarter of its about a quarter. It made a quarter of its expenses, and that's a flop in any standards, right? As far as the opening weekend, overall and its history and all that stuff. Sure, it made its money back maybe 3 times, worldwide. But I guess especially in the 80s, right? For an order for merchandise to take off, it has to over succeed in the box office for that to happen, or because again, this was Lucas, right? So you would think like, oh, this might be Lucas's, even though he only wrote it and produced it. This might be the next big wave of Lucas brainchild. Star Wars was such a craze. 88 was a low point in a lot of pop culture stuff. So this could have been, that craze. Maybe they somebody foresaw like, well, this isn't going to be that good, and then we'll give it to Tonka. We'll give the rights to Tonka.
And again, God bless Tonka.
Of course. I mean,
like I said, they tried, they failed, they tried, but then we got to go down about 40 years later, and the new Tonka, I'm sorry, Super 7, decided to revisit these characters, and I'll be quite honest with you. Other than a couple of articulations, this still reminds me of the Tonka stuff. So,
I mean,
so far in action figure format, Willow has not got his due in any way.
Yeah, and they did this because the series was coming out, and I think they wanted to do figures for the series and everything. So they were like, just like what Hasbro was doing with Ghostbusters, right? Let's redo the old Ghostbusters while the new one's got, and maybe we'll make this huge IP machine again. But like, these are very, like, what Super 7 does is a very niche market. 5 points of articulation, very stylized in a sense of like 1980 sculpting, where it's like, no, we got to make it unrealistic. Oh no, we go back to like pencils and erasers versus digital. Like, we got to, they
it
have
doesn't
that.
have to look like the actor. Forget that.
We have to pay them if we do. You know what I mean? So that's Super 7's habit of and again, maybe that's the purpose of their reaction figures. It's like a old take on new stuff,
I
where
thought it was the name reaction works. It's going to get a negative.
It's got to
reaction out of you, but it's going to get one. I can tell
here's
you that.
Here's the only reaction figure, and I don't know why I have it right there, but Ash, because Ash, and it's a horrible figure, but I had to have it. So they got me on the nostalgia thing, But this is the only Super 7
amount of nostalgia that was working for Willow.
And, I wouldn't buy him.
It's a shame too, because I really would have liked to see something, because I didn't remember it, and then I started tracking down. I was like, "Oh yeah, I do remember these."
I'll tell you
And
what,
it's like, wow, that needed better figures for that line.
yeah,
You know?
if they came out with a basic line of 5 figures,
Yeah,
like today, I would buy them. I would absolutely buy.
yeah.
I would have a sub series on my shelf of 5 or 6 figures. That's it.
Mhm.
No, you don't have to go deep into it, and I would
No.
absolutely buy it. You know, NECA could do it. You know, like they do. There's a lot of today's world that they take everything and they're trying to make a figure for it anyway. So I think it's
Yeah.
a matter of time before. But again, that series might have killed a lot
Oh yeah.
of momentum.
I don't think we're going to be seeing Willow anytime soon.
Yeah,
ever
so
again, you know?
so we'll wait for
But
the customizers, like, you know.
it's fun for us to relive that for
Oh
them.
yeah, we
So
can. Yeah, yeah.
we can kind of bring that in. But as always, we start coming down to the end of these shows. And the beautiful
Before,
aspect.
no.
Oh, wait a minute.
Before you try and end things,
Yeah.
I have to talk about the music.
Oh
James
yeah.
Horner's
Please do.
music in this
Please
is
do.
amazing.
I loved it.
Yeah. So James Horner is coming off, right? So this is what he did before Willow. Star Trek 2, 48 Hours, Krull, Star Trek 3, Cocoon, Commando, Aliens, In the Name of the Rose, which is something we might want to look at on this. I love that movie. American Tail, Batteries Not Included, then Willow. And
Love
after that, he did some stuff like Field of Dreams, Rocketeer, you know,
So he had a
Jumanji,
so-so
Titanic, Mask
know, those
of
little
Zorro,
films.
Avatar.
Those little films. Yeah. No, that's one thing that stood out too as watching it, and that appreciation for the music, the score, and even the village scene. That folky Lord of the Rings, Hobbiton. You know what I mean? It was really
when that kicks in at the end, right as they're pulling back,
it.
it's like ooh, it's the regular music, and then it's the happy like
Da-da-da.
Hobbit music, you know.
Yeah.
It just you leave the theater with that bouncy, happy feeling, smile on your face, you know.
Yeah. So in conclusion of Willow as a whole, it is a feel-good movie. It is a family movie. It puts you in the mood. Again, it puts you in that fantasy space in your head. Nobody major besides the best friend dies, besides the villains. Nobody, just like Lucas knows about this stuff. He writes this stuff where not everybody has to die to make a heroic journey. You know what I mean? So you can go into this and the same 5 or 6 people can come out of it as long as they save the day. And I think that's where the feel-good comes into it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're mourning a loss of a major character and stuff like that. That puts in a more of a serious tone, more of an adult film. But that's why Willow works to me. As like I said, one of those things where I can revisit it. Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's got adult elements where it's like borderline, like, oh crap, that's scary. But again, kids need that to propel that adventure, a sense of adventure. You know, they need evil in the world so you can have good to fight it. So like, if anybody asks me, Willow, where does it sit in my wheelhouse? It's top 10. Like, and it has a lot to do with the timing of it, where I was, how I saw it, you know, the time where it came out. Again, I was exploring where it's like, if it came out today, would it have that much of an impact today? I don't know. Like, or would it be a cookie cutter thing, like, oh, you know what, Lord of the Rings did that and it did a better job. You know what I mean? But my caveat would be like pluck the cast and crew from the 80s and pumping them into 2024 at the same thing, and then use today's technology and budget for that. So
well, I think it's impressive what they were able to do on that budget. Because you know, like, there's that shot where they've got, you know, he says it's 300 horses and men and carts and, you know, coming through, and that's all real. You know, and they just got a ton of dudes on horses.
Yeah, they did.
And, and you know, stuff like that is impressive, and also the sets, like the castle set, all that stuff.
And it also won 2 Oscars for visual and sound effects too.
And it was nominated.
It did not win. Okay, it was nominated for 2 Oscars. You can edit this. It was nominated. No, I'm kidding.
But it lost to ILM as well.
Well, they lost to themselves.
Yeah, that's how good they were. They lost to themselves.
Yeah.
like the interesting. And again, I always say it's a rewatchable film. It's a great
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon film. If you've
Yeah.
got some time and you just want to watch something that's going to put a smile on your face and not depress you for the weekend, Willow's a great rewatchable
No, it
movie.
is, man. It is a feel good and do yourself and your family and friends a favor. If they have little ones, sit them down and watch Willow with them and be like, this is when we were kids. This is what we had. And look how good it was then. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
ILM lost themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, Dr. Brantley, can we end it now?
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
Oh man,
All right.
throw these
Well,
notes away.
well, yeah. Well, we got bills to pay and everything, but we can't pay them without our generous sponsor, and that is going to be the Tashi Station Emporium. Whether, like Darth Moocher said, there's good and bad. Well, you can put good people on stands and bad people on stands, but the one thing that the Tashi Station Emporium does, it will keep your figures standing.
They won't fall over. Yeah.
Absolutely not. So we're going to roll something for Tashi Station. I tell people all the time that they are literally the best stands. Don't mess with the rest. Mess with Tashi Station Emporiums. They're the only ones that's going to stand your figures and make them look good. Great different sets. It's not like it's just the same cookie cutter design. The Darth Moocher and the boys over there really do some hot work on it. And you've also got the Tashi Station Emporium YouTube channel. Anything new popping up on that, sir?
I just put in a 3D printer review in that's doing very good. So anybody who's actually thinking about getting into 3D printing, because it's not only just I'm trying to promote my action figure stands and see how and give you kind of behind the scenes. I'm actually half of it is 3D printing in general, tips and tricks and the business and some behind the scenes on running a 3D printing business. So if anybody is curious about it or just wants to see it or wants to get into themselves, I have a whole slew of videos and shorts and everything that will bring you along with that journey. So yeah, just dropped the Bamboo Lab 3D printer, the multicolor 3D printer review is in. So if you want to check that out, you feel free. And again, if on the fence about getting into the business and getting to the hobby, maybe I can talk you into it because I'm an enabler.
Yeah.
And I did find it interesting. The one that was where you came in the morning, it's like, this is what it looks like when everything prints correctly.
Yes.
And this is what happens when it screws up.
Yes. And it was a true story. I had a meltdown. And so I figured he filmed it because and I happened to save that 3D printer, which that has happened to me about 3 or 4 times. And it's just a matter of, I forgot. I forgot to do my daily maintenance or my what to look out for, because there are some things, and that's why I want to bring that kind of education to the printing world. Again, there's a lot out there, but sometimes it's the little things that if I just check that, I would not be buying another printer right now, But yeah, that was not cool. But it's the nature of 3D printing. It really is. It's all mechanical. It's really not much you can do other than look for those things. So I try to bring that to the world too, the goods and bads.
Well, that's definitely what it is, because I know a lot of people spend an exuberant amount of money on these machines. And if you can have somebody give you those lessons, and actually the best part of free of charge, pay attention and use that tool.
It's free to watch, man. It's free to watch.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what's also free to watch? Is also anything that's on the Sarlacc Digest podcast. If you haven't jumped over there and actually subscribe to that and the Tashi Station Emporium, you're messing up. And then right over here, plenty of great things on the Shadow Knows Network. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We tell people this all the time. I know people don't believe this. Is even if you comment something negative, we're still going to take that as a positive. As long as you're interacting, we are still going to interact back with you.
Yeah. So if you didn't like Willow, or if you did like Willow, let us know. That's all.
Yeah. And be upset. You know, if you didn't like it, and whatever, we'll go over all that. And
although it's very hard to get upset on this film, I will put that out there. I will put that out there. So if you want to challenge that, or if you want to agree, you know, we're all ears.
Well, again, we're cutting this close, but like I said, again, I'm Alexander Storm. Over there is Dr. Brantley. Down below is Darth Moocher. Every week we are getting medieval. Glad you spent your time with us. And remember, subscribe.